Whether you're married or single or poly or ace, or hanging out with swingers back at your place, listen to us as we give no fuck on Tinder and Bumble and plenty of yucks, trying and having no luck, because we all know dating kinda sucks. Sarah and Adam are two of a kind. He says stupid shit and she doesn't mind. They're not doing this show to make any buck. Life as a chicken whose feathers he plucks. Why does it work? Well, here is the crux. They both know dating kinda sucks. Dating kinda sucks.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Adam Heath Avitable.
This is the DKS Podcast, a podcast about love, sex, culture, and society. This week, we'll be discussing the cost of loving. Enjoy the show.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, now's the time to like and subscribe, turn on notifications, whatever, just to show us that you're enjoying the full episodes that we put up here instead of trying to kowtow to YouTube's policies for wanting short clips. We're putting the whole hour and a fucking half up here. So enjoy the show. So we mentioned it last episode, but 2024 is the year of the listener. And before we get settled into this episode, is there anything on your mind? We want to hear from you. Whether you have topic ideas or questions you want to email to datingkindasuckspodcast@gmail.com, or just an issue you need help with, you can leave a voicemail on our DKS Helpline at 407-519-0181. Don't be shy.
And this week, we'll chat about a guy who is suing Chicago women over negative Facebook group posts, answer a call from a listener, explore Cape Town, South Africa, and then talk more about our topic. Is it cheaper to be single and dating or to be in a relationship? What is the cost of loving? But before we get into that, Adam, I suppose I should wish you a happy early birthday or happy birthday when this episode comes out.
Yeah, it's early right now because we're recording on Tuesday, but it will be my birthday when this episode airs. And thank you very much. And it's so funny that we have birthdays within a week of each other. It's just one of those random things.
It's so easy to know when yours is.
Yeah, I know. I just exactly. And I always remember yours. I don't really have plans yet. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do, but it'll be me, is basically what it is. It's either I'm going to have plans to go do something for myself, or I'm just going to end up doing nothing. And that's still for myself. The one thing I'm sad about is that there's no Publix's nearby, so I can't go get a Publix birthday cake, which I am a big fan of. Like, I do
really
miss
just
that.
The sheet cakes.
Oh yeah. It's just the Publix brand birthday cake though. Like with the, whatever their buttercream icing and the way they make the cake, it's always perfect. And I'm a huge fan. I like the cake, piece of that vanilla ice cream. It's just like, can't go wrong with that. And I'm probably going to go get some type of cake here at the grocery store, but I know it's not going to be the same. So I'll be a little bit disappointed in that.
I was going to say, you're not going to give another brand a chance, but I guess you will.
I'll try it. But it just can't be as good. I don't know what it is about Publix. Something about their certain things that they do right. Like their cookies. I'll tell you what, I have traveled across the entire country now.
They have the best cookies in the US.
Like the bakery, everywhere I went, I would go to the grocery store bakery and I would get a pack of like chocolate chip cookies, which is one of my favorite type of cookie, especially the fresh made bakery kind. And Publix's have been better than every grocery store I've been to across all 48 states. So I don't know what it is that they do. So it's the only reason I still support Publix, because they're otherwise a garbage institution. But yeah, so that's about it for my birthday. I'm not really I might I'll go to a bar or whatever. It's Friday. It's gonna be a Friday night. I'm gonna go out and have a few drinks, and probably meet up with a couple of friends. I've been making friends here, and that's been nice. And that's and we'll see. I want to I was gonna go to the movies.
Leave your calendar open for possibilities.
Yeah. I'll let listeners, they can buy me a drink if they want. They can Venmo me if they want it. My Venmo is just Adam-Avitable. So if you're listening, you want to send me $10 for a drink, hey, feel free. I'm not gonna say no, and it'll be a nice little surprise.
I never do that.
I know you don't, but I have no shame.
I know. I was going to say, I would never ask. Also, I don't want to drink.
Well, right. I guess that's true. Yeah. But I think this weekend I'll probably go out a couple times. I've been sick, and I tried to go out last night, Monday night, and I lasted about 2 hours, and I was like, I'm done. And I was like 2 hours at a fancy place. I only had like 2 drinks. It wasn't like throwing back shots or anything. So I have to work my way up to be able to drink this weekend. So how about your birthday? Did you have a good one?
Yeah, it was nice. Maybe it's just because I'm getting older, but it doesn't feel as monumental as it used to.
Yeah. I
After just turned 32. So I felt like 30 and 31, maybe because I went on big trips to Mexico City and Hawaii. And now I just kind of stayed in Washington, and it was nice. We went to a resort about 2 hours outside of Seattle. We were in the snow. It was really beautiful. But very low key, just Roy and I hanging out, hanging in the hot tub and the heated pool off the side of a mountain. That was
I mean, that sounds pretty
beautiful.
awesome.
Yeah, as it was
Yeah.
snowing, that was pretty
Yeah.
cool. Got my fix of winter stuff, and now I'm back in Seattle where there's no snow, so that's perfect.
That's good. I remember my 30th actually was a just a perfect storm of shit. Because my wife at the time, I think she had to go out of town for work on my actual birthday. And so she was out of town, and then my grandmother died in Massachusetts. So my parents also flew out of town that same weekend. And so basically, like anyone that I was had potential plans with or whatever, all of a sudden was gone. So I just basically did nothing for my birthday. And I don't think I really I occasionally throw parties at the house or whatever, but I think my 40th was when I went to Iceland for that was like that big one.
Yeah.
And I think when I hit 50, I'll probably do something, crazy, too. I don't know what, but I'll probably try to really plan something, insane for that.
Yeah.
Move to another country for good. Who knows? Just
You just moved to Tulsa. Why are we talking about moving again?
that's true. And there was something else that I was going to say. And everybody in the Facebook group wished you a nice little happy birthday.
I know. I responded to pretty much everybody.
I was impressed that you actually saw that. I also didn't even know if you noticed the pictures I chose for the little collage, but they were
I did, and I ignored them.
They were
but
funny.
It's
They
fine.
they're all they're all funny pictures that we had taken over the years. Just like some of just you, and then like usually the few of us that are always ridiculous. Like you're either flipping off the camera or it's just it's insane. Or you got the one with the giant dildo, which is one of my favorite photos.
I know it is.
The
I
look
saw
on your
that and
face.
said, "Of course he used
Of
that
course,
photo."
I grew
I'm
that
not
one.
even
Yeah,
surprised by
that's
that.
one of the funniest pictures. But so other than birthdays, I don't think we really have much else going on. Personally, we just talked about this 2 weeks, and we're actually back on pattern to be a normal every 2 week episode. Show. Look at that.
Until I leave again.
I know. I noticed that Apple Podcasts the other day, like they have our podcast, and it says monthly episodes is what it says. Like as far as like what they consider us to be. Which monthly, fuck that. No, we do it bi-weekly.
Well, there are the holidays and other times where we've missed, and then we only did one for the month, so I understand. But
I know, but you'd think they would average that all out, and like especially the times we were doing it weekly for a while too. So I don't know.
I'm not offended. So, anyways, let's talk current events, because something interesting popped up on my social media feed that I just had to laugh about. And I don't know if you've seen this, Adam, but there is actually, and we talked about Facebook groups, the Are We Dating the Same Guy group, and how each city has a different page. And I joined Seattle to just get a pulse on everything going in there. Well, this guy, Nick D'Ambrosio, who's 32, is suing 27 women and Facebook over negative posts about him.
Which is so interesting, because what is exactly is his claim? That it's like defamation?
He's seeking damages, and he wants to prevent people from continuing to publish statements about him, saying that it hurt his finances and his reputation by them posting about him.
Okay, interesting. It's one of those hilarious things where in defamation cases and anything like that, you have to prove that it's not true. So so that means that if he actually were to go to court for it, then every single woman that he's ever dated would be invited to appear as a witness to talk about the fact that I see that he was described apparently in the Facebook group as being like psycho and clingy and ghosting women and things like that. So like they would just have to appear and be like, oh yeah, here's his text messages from me that shows how clingy or crazy he is, or oh yeah, he didn't show up. I can attest to the fact that he ghosted me. And like basically it would be so easy to prove that he's completely wrong, like completely wrong. And what a better way. There's a thing, it's called I believe it's called Bette Midler syndrome, or the Bette Midler effect. And it was, I don't remember the actual context of it, but I actually want to hold on, look it up, because it's very interesting. The Bette Midler effect was something about she had like a tweet or something that she put out there that seemed pretty innocent, and then someone said something about it, and was like asking if like they started like had an issue with it, and instead of just like saying, "Oh, you're right," and then just taking it down or whatever. She doubled down on it and became this huge thing where people who had never heard of it started looking it up because she was talking about it. So like
Yep.
she essentially made her own drama multiple, just worse and worse, just like this guy's doing. Because now that he's in the news for this,
There's all these articles with his fucking name and face everywhere.
Exactly.
So now everyone knows who he is, where only the group knew before, which blows my mind that couldn't he sue and not be, could he be anonymous? I'm not a lawyer.
You can't sue someone anonymously in that. There's probably some, I would say in certain circumstances, there might be, if it's a minor suing something for like civil damages for something with sexual battery, maybe there might be a case where you can be anonymous. Not in this case. No, you have to, because you have the right to face your accuser if you're being sued. Basically, that's one of the legal rights, and so you'd be able to, to face the person. So yeah, so he's made it so that a private group in Chicago, which I know probably has several thousand members.
Oh no, they have 80,000 members.
Okay, so 80,000 members, but still in a city of Chicago, which has
a big metro city,
a couple million people, I'm sure, whatever. I have no idea, what the actual size is, but now they all know who he is, and now every woman outside of Chicago knows who he is and knows to avoid him completely, because any guy who's going to do that is getting so defensive. That's the epitome of douchebag behavior right there too.
I think he started this lawsuit to say, I'm going to help other men who are, and I'm just speaking out of my ass, right? I don't know what his thought process was besides, I want to help my reputation and make some money. But I think he was also in I'm going to lead the charge for other men. So I'm not the only one who is going to face this anymore. And I'll stop these women from being so naggy and wrong and blah, blah, blah. And that's backfiring against him a lot more than I think he expected.
Yeah. So apparently now there's other stuff coming out about him, right?
Oh, yeah. So good old Nico is accused of filing at least 2 false tax returns, both in which he claimed that he spent an exorbitant amount in expenses and spent it on charity while earning a salary well below the poverty line. And I guess this whole scheme started in 2020. And so now he's dealing with tax fraud.
So now because he decided he wanted to try to, step up and be a man, and just how dare women
got more eyes on him.
Yeah. You gotta love that type of, that's a great kind of justice there, I think, when that happens. Does this change your opinion of Are We Dating the Same Guy group at all? Do you think it's still valuable?
The Seattle one sometimes is questionable with things, but I will say I would say every 2 posts that I'm like, was that necessary to post? There's one that people are saying, hey, I'm actually concerned about this. Let me know if anything's a red flag. And then women, anything that has more than probably 10 comments, that's when I go and actually read the tea on what's going on.
Right,
yeah. So there is some, again, we talked a whole episode about this. I do think there's value in it, but I think there's a right way to approach certain conversations on that Facebook group.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that, if I think the benefit it does to protect women outweighs the occasional overreach that it might have, or something, in that way. Because I know there's women that are going to, unfortunately, and this blows my mind. And if you're a woman listening to this and you have ever taken a screenshot from Are We Dating the Same Guy and sent it to a guy, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why would you violate that type of safety for that? If you're like, well, yeah, I think he's a good guy, maybe he is, but like, let people talk about him, in the privacy. But by you doing that, you just made it dangerous. You just made it, something unsafe. And the amount of people who talk about that happening, where a woman has decided to share it, is just, it's unbelievable. And it really kind of blows my mind sometimes, that it's not men in the group that are the issue. It's the other women sometimes can make it more dangerous.
And they have those rules saying you can't share or whatever, but I mean,
how do you, you can't really enforce it.
You can't enforce it, and it's not legally binding in any way. But this lawsuit also has me thinking, if anyone ever made a viral social media post against me talking shit about me, does that encourage me to want to sue? If I took all the people who have said shit about me on the internet and I tried to sue for defamation and reputation or whatever the fuck,
I know.
Is that what? Why would I don't know. Why waste my time?
It's very rarely worth it unless what they're saying about you is so egregious that and it actually has somehow legitimately harmed you in some way too, and here's the thing too, is in this lawsuit, if it's actually going to proceed, which I don't think it will, if it proceeds, he's going to have to name the person who sent him the information and how he found out too, which means that woman
That's a good
is going to be absolutely ostracized for sharing the stuff with him, because someone had to share it with him.
Yeah.
That's just interesting. It's funny. We had somebody in our group ask about the who joined our group, and then was like, "What do you all think of the group?" And he was, and for the most part, everybody was pretty supportive of it. And I was like, "Yeah, I can see where the benefits outweigh the negatives, for sure." So we get a lot of people, I think, who found our episode on it and like kind of listened
And
to
have shared that through other.
Yeah, I've
Facebook
shared that
groups.
in that Facebook group too. Has you guys heard the episode? Because we get people join our group. But yeah, that is interesting. And yeah, Nico, you sound like a real winner.
He's gonna have to move to another city. But at this point, because his face is everywhere, I think, if you dated in Seattle or New York or Miami, wherever the fuck, people would look him up. You're
and a
gonna do
name
a
like
Google
Nico
search.
D'Ambrosio is not like it's not like a
not like Michael
it's not like a
Brown.
common name. Yeah, it's not like it's not John Smith. That's gonna be pretty clear. And yeah, so it's he kind of did this to himself, and here's the thing is, men, if you find out that you're in one of these groups, the better thing to do is be like, if you find out everything they're saying about you, think about it. How much of it might be true? How much of it might be exaggeration? Sure, there's going to be an element of exaggeration, but how much of it might actually be true? And maybe you should say, instead of getting angry about
I
say,
fucked up. I should
yeah,
have said
exactly.
that,
Oh
or
shit,
whatever.
you know what? Maybe I really am a douchebag, and maybe you should start working on yourself.
Well, because that's the other thing too, because sometimes these posts, at least from what I've seen, it's some of them are in the past where people are calling out shitty behavior from a couple years ago when they dated, that when the photo of any red flags from this guy, it's from 2 years ago when they're bringing up information. If I go back 6 years, I did and said a lot of shitty things to men that if there was a group, there was a group,
yeah.
I would definitely agree and go, yeah, I fucked up. I did and said wrong things and I own up to it.
Yeah. No,
I can't expect to be perfect, but if it happened 6 months ago, within the last year or 2 years, but so some of that you have to think, okay, they had some window of area to change, but
yeah, that's true.
they might not have. And at least I'm armed with some of this information. It's better than nothing. But as a guy, yeah, you got to own up to
you have to. I mean, yeah, absolutely. And you're right, though, that is, especially because I do find that none of it's very rarely is it going to be like, oh, well, 7 years ago we did this stuff. It's usually going to be like, oh yeah, last week he ghosted me, or oh, he just sent me his dick today.
Like a couple months ago,
yeah, it usually feels like it's or they're dating multiple people without telling anyone, and so that's one element of this is further evidence in why I would say sexual orientation is not a choice, but it's just the way we are, is because I feel like just further example why women would not date men if they didn't have to. And then another one is the other TikTok video that's been going viral. I've seen it all over the place. Like it seems like even people who don't usually like do commentation on it or commentating on anything or commentating on it, and sharing and talking about it. It's the woman who was on a date and and she's also, I feel like, in Chicago area now that I think about it.
You might be right.
Yeah, I think yeah. But anyways, goes on a date with someone. He turns out to be racist and apparently was dropping the N-word, is what it seemed like from the context. And so she just left. She was like, and it was like it was not feeling like this was anything. So she just left. And he followed her and like chased her down basically in the car. And then I started asking her about it, and she was like, I'm sorry, I didn't see it, there's no connection there, and that's not okay with me. And you saw this, right?
Yeah, no, I watched the video. I didn't see it, and you sent it to me actually. And she's sitting in her car. The video is recorded of like just the phone in her lap talking to him. And she drove home. He followed her home. She's talking to him sitting in her car while he's standing outside of her window. And she's like, I don't see a connection. You said racist things. He's like, well, I'm not a racist. I'm the least racist person there is. And she's like, no, someone who's racist would say that, not someone who's not racist.
Yeah, the least racist person wouldn't say that word. And then he's like, oh, fine, I'm going to call my black friends. And he which is just, And you can tell she was so done with that conversation too. And then what does she say? She says something like about respect, and she's just like, like you don't have the respect or whatever. And then that's when it shifts.
And she rolls up her windows like, I'm fucking done with this guy now. Get out of my face.
Yeah,
because he starts yelling.
Where was the respect when I, when you left me at the bar? I think he called her a cunt or something like
You
that.
cunt. Yeah.
And then he starts yelling about, where's the respect when he said he spent $300 on her, which seems like an exaggeration, by the way. Like, I feel like this date seems like it ended
pretty early on.
Yeah, pretty early. So I don't know where they went. He would spend that much, but yeah. And so then she was just like kind of terrified for her life too. So a couple of places she's actually trying to find a new place to live, anyways. And so like some of the big TikTokers, I know you don't know this one, but Dinesh is one of them. But he's actually like raising money to help her get her moving expenses faster, so she can get a new place. But and he's got the guy's name. She told it to him, but said, please don't share it until I'm safe. And so he's going to wait, and then he's going to call the guy out. But yeah, it's just terrifying. You're listening to you're like, in the beginning, you're like, this guy sounds really annoying. Like, what a douchebag. And how dare you like follow her to her car, like follow her home. Like that's crazy. But then like it goes up a notch. It gets even crazier.
Yeah. And it's something that I wouldn't have thought about if a date doesn't go well, now I have to worry about someone potentially following me home.
Right.
And stalking me?
Yeah.
Really?
Because we tell people don't get a ride with your date, especially on a first date or second date, like go in your own car. But having to risk them following you home, like that's gotta be crazy. Like that's a whole other level.
Mentally you're ready to like get inside, wipe off the date from your mind and just forget about it. And then this guy's standing right next to your fucking window talking to you about how he's not racist, give him a chance, da 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 da. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Insane. This is it's
but
really,
yeah, but men have to worry more about their lives than women, right? Because men go to war.
Yeah, exactly. Because men go to war. And men have to worry about being rejected, because being rejected is so much worse than having someone follow you home and start yelling at you insults and make you terrified for your life. Like it really is that perspective that I think a lot of men get. I understand being rejected is hard. It is. It sucks. But like it's nothing compared to the the reality of having your life threatened. And I wish that men could really just understand. I think if men could understand that basic idea, just that basic concept, that would make them more empathetic, and for the rest of like the experience would be improved for women and men, because they would start off with that idea. Oh, let me start off on the foot that every time a woman goes on a date with a man, she's potentially risking her life. If they kept that in mind every time, instead of getting defensive and shitty about it, I think that it would make dating a better experience for everybody. But no, they have to.
But men don't think that they're bad in any sense. I think even this guy, right, who stalked her, followed her, all of the things, probably doesn't think he's a bad guy. He thinks she's just a bitch. Yeah. And he did nothing wrong, because he is owed an answer and a response for what happened on that date.
Yeah. And that
doesn't make him a bad guy.
He also something like, I've been down this road before, or something like that. He oh, dude. Oh, so this is the first time? And yeah, that's, oh, men. Let's also, speaking of men, we actually have another like this, and this is not a bash men episode. This is just this is supposed to be
this wasn't supposed to be.
I know, but it's just this is all men doing it to themselves here. We have a caller who left a voicemail a couple I think it was in late November, so I appreciate you leaving the voicemail. It's from Stacy, and if you want to leave a voicemail, by the way, you can do that before you listen to this. You can do that by dialing 407-519-0181. But let's hear what Stacy has to say.
Hi, this is Stacy. My Instagram handle is OneMotherRunner222. My question for you guys today is, I seem to have the same pattern occur again and again in dating, and I'm hoping you guys can help me. It always starts off where the guy is super into me. He seems crazy about me, acts like, he wants to be with me and wants to spend a lot of time with me. And then it always fades out, like really, really quickly. And then I end up with kind of holding the bag in the end, right? Like, so it could be someone I'm not even super into or whatever, but they seem to show a lot of interest. So I respond, show interest back, start to date, and then all of a sudden it feels like their interest completely fades. Is it me? Am I doing something wrong? Is it they get to know me and then they don't like my personality? I'm just really curious if other people have faced this and what this might be. If it helps, this seems to happen with cis hetero men and a hetero relationship. So I don't know if this is something unique to that, or I just don't know. Would love your advice. Thanks so much.
All right. So my first thought when you say he seems crazy about me, I read love bombing, that there's some form of love bombing with that going on. And then he either ghosts or moves on because he didn't get what he wanted, AKA sex or something in that realm. And I feel like there's a lot of context missing, whether that's like, where are you going on dates with guys? Where are you matching with guys? Where are you meeting guys in general? And the type of pool of those people. But if a lot of them are trying to just, I like you so much, I want to hang out with you, whatever, that is a form of love bombing. And just to be aware, that's what it is. And yeah, what are your thoughts?
Well, it definitely sounds like love bombing. It sounds like a guy sees you. You gave us your Instagram handle, so I looked up your Instagram. You're very attractive, and I think that like an objectively attractive person. And I think that when you have that, men see that and immediately start to assign like a fantasy world.
Owed.
Well, no, not even that, but like even like a fantasy world of like, oh, well, then like they see somebody who, and they're like, oh, well, she must be like this and like this and like this, and they kind of create this persona of you that then they like, that's where the love bombing comes from, because they build it without even getting to know you. And then as they start to get to know you and aspects of who you are, things you like to do, things, like your interests, it could be your politics, could be a level of intelligence. It could be like just your level of security with yourself and confidence with yourself. All these things might lead them to then stop having that love bombing effect. And the one thing I would say is that it's not healthy to like somebody just because they like you. It's flattering as hell when somebody's into you, even if you don't really see a connection with them. When they're like, they're like plying you with compliments and love and all types of positive things. It's hard not to look at that, but you can't look at that and then create attraction out of that if there wasn't to begin with. Because that's also, I think the thing is, you're like, oh, well, he is into me and it seems nice.
Like, why not? It would be good for me to go on a date with him. But why, if you're not super into him?
Yeah.
What's the point? If it's not a fuck yes, it's a fuck no. Like sympathy dates, exactly. You don't need to do any of that. You don't waste your time with that bullshit.
I think that's exactly part of it. And I think that when you start to be like, oh, well, let me kind of give in, like, oh, okay, I'll give in. Let me give this person a chance. At that moment too, it starts becoming less a fantasy for them and then reality. And, men are like dogs sometimes. Like they chase a car and then when they get a hold of the car, they don't know what to do with it. And so like reality all of a sudden like, oh, well, wait, she wants to like
that's
date?
How she is.
Oh yeah. She just doesn't want to go home and fuck right now. She wants to date. Like, I don't know if like that's that might not be it. And I think that's really part of it. I don't think it's your personality. I don't think it's anything you're doing wrong other than maybe giving people a chance when you're not attracted to them. I think that might be the thing to do from now on, is that if you don't see it in the beginning and the only reason you're starting to give them a chance is because of how they're treating you, that's not going to be a healthy relationship regardless. It's not going to be balanced.
Yeah, I agree. Don't waste your fucking time.
Yeah. So
date people who you actually want to date.
Yes.
And form relationships with those people, and it might not work out, and you could still face love bombing and other things in those situations too, but at least you're dating people who you're attracted to, interested in, and actually want to date, instead of just kind of wasting time on people that you feel meh about.
Yep, I agree. There's better people out there and better people that are worth your time. So, and once again, if anyone else has any questions, what's the number, Sarah?
You can always call the DKS hotline at 407 hang on, pause this, delete this, at 407-519-0181.
That's right.
You said helpline earlier. I was like, is it a helpline now or a hotline? I
call it a helpline and a hotline. I noticed that I actually switch back and forth between the two. I mean, they're both the same kind of thing, aren't they? Yeah, I mean, they're both for getting help, getting advice.
I guess, yeah.
So
not an official helpline. We are not professionals.
No, we're just two assholes. That'd be the other name of our podcast if we had one. Just two assholes. You can also email us at kindasuckspodcast@gmail.com if you do have any questions, if you need any advice, if you have any topic ideas, just have general thoughts. We'd love to hear them. Once again, this is the year of the listener. And I would love for anyone listening to dive in and give us some feedback or something. But we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. And when we come back, it's going to be time for What to See with Sarah G as she explores Cape Town, South Africa.
Well, as most of you know, I spent 1 month in Cape Town, South Africa in December, and there was so much to do, not only in Cape Town, but the surrounding areas. So I'll give you a lay of the land, where to stay, what to do, what to see, all of that. So starting off with places to stay, I actually stayed in one of these properties. It's called the Neighborhood, and they have about 14 locations in South Africa, and it's more for people who are working and living there for a prolonged period of time, but it's also just a hotel. So it's great. You have a private room, bathroom, co-working space, a private fridge in your room, and then kitchen, and you can actually store all of your stuff in the kitchen as well. The location where I stayed at the Neighborhood was East City. And although I liked the brand Neighborhood, I wouldn't recommend staying at that location just as far as safety goes. But I would say of all their other locations, there's some really good picks that are closer to the beach and in safer areas. So I would recommend Neighborhood as a chain, but not exactly the East City location. Okay. I thought you were going to say something.
No, I have nothing to say. I'm just
Okay.
nodding along.
Okay. For things to do, if you like the city and party atmosphere or more of a chill beach environment, Cape Town really caters to both. I'm someone who, even a week trip, I try to schedule in at least one chill day so I don't completely feel burnt out by the end. So if that's you, I would highly recommend spending at least one full day at the beach. There are two beaches closest to like the metro Cape Town area. That is either Camps Bay or Clifton Beach 1 through 4, which confused me at first because I was like, wait, Clifton 1, 2, 3, 4. There are actually 4 beaches. It's all one big beach, but they're separated by all of these massive rocks. So to get to the second beach, you have to like walk up and around or like walk over the rocks. But I highly recommend going to Clifton. It is a little bit trickier to actually get to because it's not, a lot of it's all of these resorts or Airbnbs or apartments are right on the edge there. So they just walk down from their building. There's not like a big public access area for 1 through 3, but I do think it is more private, and it in my opinion was more beautiful because you just look up and then you see the mountains and you see all these things. So that's my recommendation. Camps Bay is cool too if you prefer to be right next to all of the shops and restaurants just right off the street there, but just more crowded. Now for hiking trails and views, there's obviously Lion's Head, which is probably the most popular hiking spot and has views of the city. It is kind of not dangerous in a sense of I don't know, dangerous both ways. I guess I lied. There was the danger of the muggings when I was there, but I think there's more security officers there now preventing the muggings from happening during the summer months. But I would recommend, if you do Lion's Head, go in a group of 3 or 4 people and only bring what you need: water, a shitty like a cell phone, and like some money, but don't bring all your credit cards and all your shit with you. And I would make sure that you pack really good hiking shoes too, because it is rocky on some areas and it is a hard hike. I didn't actually end up being able to do it, but my friend Jen did. She loved it. She went with a group. It was a great experience for her, which is cool. But if you still want those views and you're thinking, yeah, this hike's just not in the cards for me, there actually is another option. You can take the cable car up to Table Mountain, and there's Lion's Head and Table Mountain. And honestly, I mean, I wasn't on Lion's Head, so I can't say they have similar views, but you'll still get the view of all of Cape Town from Table Mountain, and you just take the cable car up and you can hang out there. There's a restaurant up there. There's another little hiking trail. You can hike up there. It's all flat. Nice, very nice camera shots if you want to do all of that. So Table Mountain with the cable car is good if you want to do that. Now, if time is limited when you're in Cape Town and you really want to see it all, I recommend booking a day trip tour. I booked mine through Viator, and through this tour, we went to Bow Cap, Boulders Beach, and the Cape of Good Hope, and it was a really good all-encompassing tour. It's from 8 a.m. to basically 6:30, but we hit everything. So of that tour, the area of Bow Cap number one is like a really colorful neighborhood, but it is also known for not being the safest. They don't recommend tourists going there late at night, and they recommend going early in the morning and in groups. So you can still check out the area, be with a guide who actually knows which parts of the neighborhood to walk around. You can take photos. You're in and out really quickly, and it's more enjoyable that way. From BoCap, we went to Boulder's Beach, which was actually the highlight of my trip. And at the beach, this is known for seeing all of the penguins that have a colony there. So there are two ways that you can see the penguins. One is from the main access way where you walk on the boardwalk and you see them from afar. They're like just chilling by the shore, which is cool. But if you go around to the beach entry way, you can climb on some rocks. It is kind of challenging to climb over some of the rocks, but if you wear the right stuff and you're prepared to climb on rocks and potentially get a little wet based on the tides, you can see the penguins just chilling in the water right next to you. They're going to be like a foot away. Obviously, you can't touch them. You'll get fined, and you don't want to get bitten. They do bite. So just hang out with the penguins on the beach side. And that was probably one of the coolest parts of that day trip and the trip in general, just to be like, yeah, I went to Boulder's Beach. I was hanging out with penguins. There is no guarantee, though, of seeing penguins. So it's just kind of, you could get over there and there's only one or two penguins, or you could get on that side and there's a shit ton of them. Really just depends. And then last but not least is the tour of the Cape of Good Hope, which I thought the Cape of Good Hope was the southern tip of Africa where the Indian and Atlantic Ocean meets. But actually, that's not true at all. There were all these signs and restaurants saying Two Oceans Restaurant. And I'm like, how fucking misleading is that? This isn't where the two oceans are, but everything's two oceans this, two oceans that. But it is the southwestern, the most southwestern point of the continent. So from here, there is a really nice hiking trail. It is a little more challenging than just walking on flat land, but you see some beautiful views of the coast. There is a beach. If you like walk down, you're surrounded by all of these boulders and it's beautiful colors and really untouched area because there's not like people living there or anything. You have to enter through a gate. It's like a national park protected land place. But the Cape of Good Hope was also a big highlight, especially when you're there. It's only an hour from Cape Town. So those are things I recommend. For food and drinks, I could list so many places, but I will say, number one, there's this bar called Fable. They have really creative craft cocktails. And the one favorite drink that I had, you can dip a paintbrush in the drink and then it changes colors. They also had another drink where you got kinky handcuffs and the server would like handcuff you to your drink and you couldn't take your handcuffs off until you finished the drink. So they just had really fun showboaty cocktails there. And then as far as African food, I went to this place called Mama Africa, which was a little touristy in my opinion, but it was one of the only places in Cape Town where I saw you could order either crocodile or zebra, and I did order both. And it was delicious.
Yeah, I'll say I want to hear about that. I mean, I've had alligator, but
I feel like crocodiles like alligator because I've had alligator before. Zebra, I didn't realize. I should have thought about this because zebra and horses are kind of similar, right? So, right?
Kind of, yeah. I'll say the more like also deer-like, maybe like kind of venison, a little gamey, probably.
I had no idea going in. I just thought like maybe it's gonna be like horse meat. I've never had horse meat. It tasted more like steak to me, and when it came out served, it just looked like a little 6-ounce thing. So it was fucking delicious and I really liked it. I'm not going to order it again, but it was one of those things where our whole group saw it on the menu and went, they're serving it and it's one of their featured items, so we should get it. But yeah, if you want zebra, you can go to Mama Africa. And then other notable areas, there's the winery and the wine train. That's about an hour away from downtown Cape Town. And then there's the Aquila. I honestly, I didn't go to this game reserve, but I have heard great things about it. You can take 4-wheelers on this game reserve and it's about 2 hours outside of Cape Town. If going to Kruger National Park and traveling more throughout other parts of South Africa isn't in the plans, you can stay within the Cape Town area and still see lions, giraffes, and the Big Five.
The Big Five?
The Big Five. I guess I haven't mentioned this before because just to you, the Big Five when you're on a safari, it is lion. Oh my God, now I'm going to forget it. It is lion, buffalo,
elephants probably.
Lion, buffalo, elephant, rhino, and leopard.
Oh, leopard, not giraffe.
Leopard. So it's the animals that are hardest to track.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, which I didn't see a leopard. Leopard's probably the hardest one, and we didn't see any leopards. We saw so many zebra, so many hyenas, a lot of, during my safari. But yeah, leopard was hard, and rhinos were actually pretty hard too to spot, just depending on time of year that you go and where they're hanging out. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've got as far as like enjoying Cape Town. I mentioned on another episode, and I walked away from the episode thinking I was a little negative on Cape Town, which I don't want it to come across that way. I just want you to be smart when you travel to Cape Town, and any place can be safe or unsafe depending on how prepared you are. I really enjoyed my time in Cape Town. I think South Africa is a beautiful country, but just be alert. Don't travel alone at night if you don't have to. Order an Uber if you're going even just a couple blocks away. It's safer. Only keep necessities on you. This is probably the first place where I actually had to think about safety a little bit more, and now I'm more aware of it in general. And nothing bad happened to me, but I was just more alert than in previous trips. So just be smart.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And that's Cape Town, South Africa.
I like the idea of having they had the cable car, so if you don't want to hike, you can still go get the views.
Oh yeah.
I was like, that's the Avitable type of travel right there.
I mean, it is a different mountain, but it's right next to it.
What's the difference, honestly?
That's kind of how I felt at the end of the trip. I was like, I already saw the views. I really don't need to go on a 2-hour hike and kill myself over similar views. Now, people would disagree with me, and that's fine. I'm probably wrong. But
what's the water like at the beach?
Cold, fucking cold.
Okay,
it's
summer there.
Ice bucket challenge cold.
But it's summer there when you were there.
It was summer, yeah, still cold.
So temperatures are warm. But it was like as far as
it was like 70s, 80s.
Okay.
Like the air, yes, but the water. People were saying, "Oh, it's because of the ice in Antarctica." Is that really true? I don't know. I guess maybe.
Well, because I can imagine that the stream isn't there. There's probably one of the major ocean streams that goes probably right by that entire area.
Oh yeah, but I don't. I was just like, it's cold.
Stuff, but yeah,
I ain't getting in the water. That's
clear or like ocean cloudy, like Daytona Beach.
Clear.
Okay.
Oh, do you think I would be raving about the beaches if they were like Daytona Beach for a second?
Daytona Beach is nice, and I don't.
Daytona Beach is not
Daytona
great.
Beach. I mean, it's a fun beach, but like I'm used to beaches where you can't see down the water. You're just you're swimming, and you can't really see in there. It's not clear, so they can still be nice beaches.
Sure. But I'm saying this beach had 5 different shades of blue as you were looking in the ocean. And it was something that I don't think I've really ever seen before. Maybe in Thailand where the water was this kind of blue, but so many different parts were like turquoise and dark blue and whatever. And yeah, not muddy, not cloudy, just straight up beautiful.
That's cool. And penguins, but no great whites, because that was my other question. The question or concern was that I would imagine sharks would hang out where penguins were, probably. But
so not there. There's a beach. It starts with an M. I can't think of it. We didn't go there. It's a little further away from Cape Town. It's like a 30-minute drive. That's where all the surfing is, and they have all the surf competitions, and that's more known for shark attacks. But our guide was saying that they have shark lookout stations, and they haven't had a shark actually come into where the bay where all the surfers and stuff are in a real probably 20 years.
Oh, wow.
So they watch for sharks, but they don't have any attacks or anything like that. Because I was thinking about going surfing too. So it's like, well, I've surfed in South America, so let's do Africa now. But it's fine. It was
too cold for you, I think.
Well, I had a wetsuit on when I did it in Chile, so
yeah.
I would have done a wetsuit, but maybe it's just I suck at surfing. So do I really want to go through surfing again? And
I honestly can't imagine laying on a board and then as you're traveling through the water, being able to push yourself up to a standing position. Like the idea,
it's fucking hard.
It boggles my mind. So yeah, I can't. I've never been able to either contemplate the concept of surfing. So yeah, I can get that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, very cool. Well, thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to the topic of the cost of loving.
For those who don't know me personally, I think about money a lot. Adam can attest to this. I have a financial tracking sheet, and I track everything down to the penny. I know what I'm saving, investing, how much I'm spending on groceries month to month, what I'm and I've been tracking this since 2019. So I know how much I was spending as a single person versus now. And I've seen a lot of talks just online and in general about, oh, well, people in relationships, they save more money on this and this and that, and it's just so much cheaper to be in a relationship. And then I was comparing my finances being single, and I'm like, well, on some things I save money, and then on other things, not so much. I feel like I'm spending more money on the activities in the food category. So I think it's important to just kind of talk about the costs when it comes to either being single or in a relationship or dating, because there's finances tied to every single side of that.
Yeah. And I don't follow finances at all, and I'm really bad with financing.
I try to help you.
You try, yeah, you tried, and you actually helped me set up a budget. One of the first times I've ever done a budget in my entire life, which I started. Then I took your advice and started my own in January of this year. So this is the first year I'm actually trying to do this. So I don't pay attention to this stuff at all. Like it's just like I'm like money. It'll come back soon, you know. And so I think it's interesting. I'm going to learn more on this episode than I think you will in this case. So I'm interested to hear kind of what types of things you found out.
Okay, so I just did some baseline research of how much it costs for a date and just places to live. So in 2021, Zeus had looked at how much a romantic date might cost across the United States, and it came to around $97.67. So
Okay.
it just said romantic date. So I'm like, is that dinner and then another activity? That's kind of how it reads to me than just dinner. Because I think you can do a nice dinner for two for around $50.
Yeah, I would say if you don't go somewhere like too high end, and of course we don't recommend on a first date that you go on a dinner.
Right. Yeah, I'm just saying a date in general.
Yeah, I guess I would if I were to go out on a date, I would right now I would be like, yeah, if I walked away somewhere between 60 to 90 is probably what I would expect. You know, in that range. Yeah, that makes sense.
When Roy and I go out and I pick up the bill, I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's about the same whether he picks up the bill or I pick up the bill, but it ranges from around $50 to $90.
Right.
If we did a happy hour or not.
The same, you know, it doesn't matter who picks it up. Doesn't matter.
No,
you don't pay attention at all to who picks up when or whatever.
I do pay attention because, I mean, the thing that I spend way more money on now in a relationship than when I did when I was single is dining out. My dining out bill in 2019, 2020, I was maybe spending $150 a month. Maybe.
I mean, because that girl dinner like TikTok craze is you.
That was me.
Like the fact is it's funny how much that is you. You like it or was you, you know, basically your idea of dinner sometimes you're just like, oh, I got a bag of shredded cheese tonight. And like we ought to be talking to you on the phone or like FaceTime. You just be eating shredded cheese out of a bag as your fucking dinner.
Yeah. And I saved a lot of I was broke making $50,000 a year paying for a studio apartment and all these other student loans and stuff. So I had to cut back where I had to. And food is just not something that I prioritize all the time. You know, just as long as I'm not hungry, I'm good. Right. So that was an area where I wasn't spending money, where now I budget around $300 to $400 a month for dining out. And it's not just me going out and spending lunch here and there. It's probably 1 to 2 times a week, Roy and I going out and having dinner. And yes, we do alternate who pay, you know, is it your turn? Is it my turn? And every other time one of us pays. But even then, going out 2 times a week or picking up something randomly in the middle of the week because we don't feel like cooking, it adds up.
Yeah. It does.
So that is one area where I spend more in a relationship. Anyways, so just doing some of the math on dates, we have from $50 to $100 depending on the restaurant. But I think dating in general, you can do dating for cheap if you want to do something free and do something like a coffee date or something just the two of you going on a hike or what. I'm obviously, again, not talking about first dates, but going somewhere where you're out doing something with your partner or significant other where you can do something on the cheaper end and just grab a cup of coffee and it'd be fine. My expenses, and this is one that a lot of people talk about as far as rent goes. My expenses as a single person in Nashville in 2020, got to factor in inflation. My rent was $1,300 for a barely 500 square foot studio apartment. My utilities were $170. So that's internet, gas, electricity, water. My grocery bill was $300 a month and dining out was $150. So what do you spend right now as a single person in 2024 in Tulsa?
So right now, rent, which includes my parking space, is like $1,500 a month. And that's
not
for
bad.
a 1-bedroom. That's what, 900 square feet, 1,000 square feet, or something like that.
Damn. Okay.
I think so. Excuse me. Utilities are about $80 a month. Pretty reasonable here in Tulsa.
Why are those so cheap? Oh my God.
That's I mean, in the middle of the winter with the heat on too, it actually wasn't that bad. Groceries, I'm still trying to figure out groceries because I'm buying them, regularly, but I think it's about $300 a month right now. And going out and buying groceries. And then for me, like dining out is about $600 a month, which I include if I DoorDash stuff in.
Yeah.
As well.
That's what I would add in
But
that category.
because I also know that if I go out by myself, just to like, hey, I'm going to go out for the night. Once I'm out, I'm going to try to stay out because I don't go out every night. I usually stay in a lot, but I'm like, yeah, I'm going to make the most of it. So if I go out at 5 or 6, I'm going to be out till midnight. And so it's not unusual for me to spend $100 by the time my night's over, just me having bar food and drinking. Basically, having a meal out at a bar when I get there, and then usually around midnight or 1 a.m. you want your 4th meal, of course, because you're drunk and you're like, I need more food. You want food, and so you have to go get something else. So I would say that that adds up pretty quickly. So if I only go out, a night a week, it's very easy for me to hit $600 a month and just dining out by myself, purely single, without incorporating taking somebody else out. So that's the problem.
That's a lot.
Yeah, well, drinking is expensive. It is, even if you don't like drink expensive things, it can add up. I don't like beer, I don't like wine, but like vodka and Red Bull, it kind of adds up.
I think that's important though, because it can vary whether you're in a relationship or you're single. How much you spend on a certain category can really vary depending on what you value. Right. Yeah. You value dining out and drinking and, doing certain experiences where you continue to spend money. And that's totally cool. As long as it's like budgeted in and you're not like going broke, that's great. Where it's like other people wouldn't spend in that category as much. It might be saving towards something else to eventually spend money.
Yeah, and I think that's true. And then I think, yeah, if you're not, and I'm like, it's funny because I'm not a big drinker anymore. I go out maybe once a week and that's about it. Maybe twice, but it is easy for those things to add up. So you have to kind of pay attention to it. Going on a date has been interesting. And is that, and I think that dating is going to be, the expenses are different for a dating woman versus a man who's dating, even in with today, because I feel an obligation to pay. Like, if at all possible, if someone like says, hey, I'll get the next one, I'm not going to
argue. Even if she invites you out on the date and asks you out, you still feel obligated.
Probably, at least for maybe the first round, I'd feel obligated. And then like, if she says I'll get the second round, that's fine. But I just tend to do that. And so I found that even as I continue to date someone, I still pay for things. And I don't know if it's just I tend to date people who are more broke than I am. So that's also part of it. Could that be, maybe part of it too?
I mean, that is something to keep in mind though. And that is something that causes stress in relationships in general, is when one person makes more money than the other. How do I navigate? I don't always want to be spending money every time I go out. I'd like it to be more split.
Right.
I mean, maybe some people feel like that. I feel like that. So I'm projecting. Maybe other people don't care.
Like, but when I dated Tinkerbell, she didn't really have a job. She had like certain income coming in occasionally, like gig economy type income, but otherwise didn't really have a lot. So usually it'd be like, let's go out. I got this every time, and every now and then.
Was that annoying to you though?
No, it didn't bother me, but I'm just saying it adds up. It doesn't bother me. I'm happy to do so. And I also think, by the way, that, and we did an episode of this, and I think my opinion on this has changed a little bit, because I think over time I started really assessing it as I think that men have more of an obligation to pay for things on dates with strangers, like with not someone they're dating regularly, but on dating new dates, because of the effort that women put into it, and also the pink tax and everything like that. I think women go into it in the negative. Basically, they're already starting out in the negative, so having the man pick up the tab makes sense as well. So that can change your cost. That can change your cost as well. And I think that's something that you probably didn't really have to think about, your expenses as a single person versus within a relationship.
I mean, I did, when I was going out on dates, I did factor in okay, if I end up paying for this date, I assumed he would probably pick up the check. But if he didn't, it's not like I would
Right.
decline and say,
Of
no, you
course.
have to pay. But
Right.
I always had it figured in of like, okay, I'll probably end up spending $50 to $60 tonight, depending on where we go for this date. And I was ready to pay that. But yeah, at the end of the day, most times I was picking up like a tab for drinks at one place, and then the next place he would pick up something else. So it wasn't as much as I think it would have been if I was the man in the situation.
Yeah.
Which is
absolutely.
why, a lot of men say dating is so expensive. It's like, yeah, because how many dates how many dates are you going on in a week? Do you really need to be going on like 3 or 4 dates a week every other night?
Yeah, that's definitely a good thing to consider too.
Because I was doing that, right? And that would have been really expensive if I was expected to pay every single time.
Didn't you
Not that
say when
I,
you were in your earlier 20s that things were so tight that there were times where you were broke, you would try to schedule a date so that you would get a dinner?
yes, but I was like, God, I hope he pay. It's not like I couldn't pay
Right,
for
but
it.
you were like, yeah, you're really
But
hoping
I
that
was
someone, yeah.
really hoping that he would pay because it'd be really beneficial for me to at least like have a bigger meal. And this was like single living in Nashville on my own for the first time. Like I was making
Well, I thought
even
this
less.
was Florida. I thought this was when you were in Orlando.
That was a whole sugar
Like,
baby,
oh.
sugar daddy situation. That was so different where
Okay.
he wanted to spend the money on that. So it was like, okay, we can go have a nice dinner. But in Nashville, when I was literally making $40,000 a year, paying off all of these student loans and a car payment and everything, I did not have extra money to really set aside for dating. And my grocery bill a week was like $35. And I was fucking roughing it, dude.
Wow.
I had no money. Like I worked a second job. I had no money. And yeah, going out on dates, I was like, fuck, $15 for a drink. This is gonna break my budget. Like I would get anxious about it when the bill would come and I'm like, fuck, this is gonna hurt if I end up having to pay. And he would pick it up and it was just such a relief. And then that made me think maybe I shouldn't be fucking dating because,
Yeah.
if the check does come my way and he said, no, let's split it or whatever, would I be comfortably financially picking it up? And the answer was no most of the time. For at least that first 6 months of living in Nashville, I did not have the money.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a few of those in when I was struggling. I think it was right post pandemic, before I left Florida, when I would go out with somebody and like, I'm going to cover it, but like, I really don't want to,
Yeah,
but I'm going to.
it hurts.
And then like, it's funny because somehow our conversation would talk about, things being tight or whatever. And like, I had two different women that I went out with who were like, I'm going to cover our dinner, our drinks tonight. Like I wanted it to be on me. But I just, because our conversation somehow went around when everything that had been happening and everything. And I think they just were like, oh, let me cover this. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to argue. And it was a big relief to actually have it happen.
Yeah.
So, all right. So beyond that, what other types of like expenses have you seen the differences in?
Rent. So renting as a single person in Nashville, I spent $1,300 a month on a like 500 square foot apartment, like I mentioned, and renting with Roy in Nashville, I was paying a little bit more than half because I was making more than him.
Right.
So we negotiated that I pay a little bit more in rent, which was fine. I was still paying $1,300 a month for now a 2-bed, 2-bath over 1,200 square feet. So I'm getting more space and I'm paying the exact same amount. So one, I'm good. I'm just like not in the negative, but I feel like I'm similar in that if you count space, whatever. Utilities, I went from paying like $170 a month to now only paying $100 because I'm splitting the internet, the electricity, the whatever, which was a lot cheaper. But I think those were like really my big two things where I was saving more money was on rent and utilities, living with a partner.
Right. And also because now obviously you moved to somewhere where more expensive as well. So now
Well,
it's kind of
Seattle, Seattle's kind of a,
Yeah.
but I'm comparing similar markets of Nashville.
Yeah.
I knew I could get something similar. Where now in Seattle, I'm spending $1,600 a month in rent. But if I was a single person in Seattle who wanted a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, I would be paying $2,000 a month, probably minimum. So I recognize the cost savings. I'm saving around $400, I would assume, by living with a partner in Seattle versus being single in Seattle.
What about things like streaming services and stuff like that? Like, do you guys split that, or do you just each like you like I'll pay for Netflix if you pay for Hulu, or are you just all on all my accounts?
I was gonna say I don't. Damn, I got outed on that one. I was like, I don't pay for Max because I'm on Adam's. I don't pay for Netflix because we're on Roy's, and Roy's gets his through his phone plan, so it's basically free.
Oh,
I don't pay for Hulu because I pay for Spotify, and that's coupled together.
oh,
So for
interesting.
12 bucks a month, I get Hulu and Spotify covered. So we watch stuff on Hulu all the time, but that's under mine. And what other streaming service? I mean, that's really it.
Are there? Okay, I couldn't remember if you were on any of my other ones too. I know.
Unless
Uh,
something, Amazon Prime. I do
oh
use your
yeah,
Amazon Prime
that's
if
right.
there's like Marvelous Miss Maisel I want to watch. But
Yeah,
for the, I can definitely pay for those myself. But it's
it's
kind of
just
just if there's a show we want to watch, we're gonna find a way to watch it, and then
right, right.
that's not a big deal.
I was just trying to think of other like minor expenses you might not consider. You know, like that if you get like if you get into a relationship and they already have all the stuff they're already subscribing, they might not ever think about the fact that that it's like, oh, you want to take over half of them or anything like that. Like that
That's true.
might not be something. And with streaming services being such a big thing, that's one thing. And there's all types of those. And then like internet, you guys split, I'm guessing. But the nice thing is with both of you working from home, it's also deductible for your taxes too when you eventually get to that point.
Yeah. Well, and being the internet and living with Roy, he's a gamer, so he needs the higher tier internet. Where when it
Right.
was just myself, I was on the cheapest
Of course you
$45 a
were.
month
Yeah, the
Xfinity
month.
thing. Where now
Yeah.
we're on the $80 a month one because we need to have it. And it's so funny too, living with a partner, I want to cut expenses as much as possible. So in my mind, when we moved together in Nashville, I was thinking, okay, we're gonna split a one bed, one bath. Rent's gonna be 1,500. We're gonna split that in half. We're gonna be paying like $750 a month. This is gonna be so great. I'm gonna be saving so much fucking money. And then he was like, we're gonna kill each other in a one bed, one bath, especially if
Yeah.
we're both working from home. How does that work out? So I'm paying similar prices, but I am getting more space.
That makes sense. What about the cost of like things like who decides what the thermostat's set at when you're both when you're paying splitting utilities and things like that?
He decides that.
You just let him decide it?
Well, normally, well, yeah, we only do heat. Since
Oh,
it's
you don't
tied
have
to
AC
his,
there. Yeah, I forgot about
we
that.
don't have air conditioning, but when we were living together in Nashville, I did not give a fuck. I was like, if I'm uncomfortable, I'm changing the thermostat. I don't care because it was also so much cheaper for utilities. That was me coming to terms with living with a partner of, oh, I was so afraid to bump up the heat or turn down the air when I lived by myself because I knew that bill was going to be $30 more a month or $50 more depending. But now that I'm splitting it with a partner, it's only $20 more a month or whatever.
Yeah.
That it doesn't hurt as much. So I didn't care.
Ah, okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That was the nice thing about when I had my house, and even though I had renters who were subletting from me, I paid utilities. They were included in their rent, basically. So I
Mhm.
was in control of the thermostat. So they were not allowed to. They're always complaining about how
But you
cold
didn't
it
make it so hot or so cold that it
cold.
sucked
I
to.
mean, I kept the AC at like 70, especially in the summer and stuff. So like they would complain about it being cold. I was like, well, you can always put another sweater on. I said, like if you're
God
cold,
damn.
you can put a blanket on. I said I like it nice and cool, especially during the day when I'm working there and everything. And then in the winter, I would never turn the heat on at all. Like, oh, what's the point? It's in Florida. Until like someone would complain and be like, oh, I guess I can put the heat on a little bit, like 65 or something maybe.
Hmm.
But that was a nice thing about being completely in control of that, because that's one area I could see that being a little bit of an issue when you're both splitting the costs.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I do think too, as far as just living somewhere, obviously Roy and I are not married and we're not at the point of buying a house, but you
Right.
get a lot more benefits of the down payment and purchasing a home versus a single person where you have to pay all of that upfront yourself.
Yeah, and there's also the cost benefit of tax filing too, joint filing.
Right.
What is it? Joint filing, whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
you get cost there too. So it seems like the cost of loving, as we want to call it, is I mean limited to like food and
Rent.
shelter, or like
Yeah.
is that what we're boiling it down to essentially?
I think when you're comparing being single and being in a relationship and the benefits you get, yeah. I mean, what else would there be?
I mean, that's what I'm asking. You know, I would
What
say
else
that.
would we pay for?
And so I wonder, like things like I feel like anytime you add another person into the mix, you add these other expenses for things like, and that's whether you're going on dates or in a relationship, like new experiences, things like that, like new things to do together, so that doesn't get boring, you know, or whatever. Like, or when you're dating, like, hey, there's these someone new came to town, let's go see them, that you might not see by yourself.
Yeah.
But because you're dating someone or because you're on a date, like they might, both reasons, you might spend the money to do that. So I would say like there's a third category, which is just like, you know, single dating nobody, and just get a roommate, and then then you end up you can still eat girl dinner, but at the same time you don't have to spend
You're
money
getting
going
the
out too.
benefits.
But I
Well,
don't know. I was thinking about that.
there's also the other, it's not really a cost, but it's like the cost of free time. I think
Yeah,
about when I was single, I had to do all of the house chores. I had to take out doing all those things where when you live with either a roommate or a partner, you have more free time now because you don't have to pick up all of those other responsibilities.
that's true.
So it
That's
does
true.
ease up on that, unless you're with someone who is incompetent and is not pulling their end of the bargain with household responsibilities. And that's another conversation. But for the most part, it's like, yeah, I think I spend less time cleaning, certain like doing laundry or whatever around the house because I don't have to, because someone else is picking up a certain portion of the work and I pick up the other half.
I have a house cleaner, so I guess.
Well, that's a cost. See, but that's a cost of being single for you.
Yeah, I mean,
But you wouldn't make your partner clean
no.
without, yeah, you'd still keep the cleaner.
Yes, 100%. Like it doesn't matter. Like that's an expense I'm going to have regardless of whether somebody's here or not. I mean, I like to organize. I like to keep things, you know, and I like doing laundry. I like doing the dishes. Like I like that type of stuff too. I just don't I don't like cleaning bathrooms, and I don't like mopping and vacuuming for some reason. That stuff I don't like. So having someone come every 2 weeks makes it even better. I think that, you know, as far as a partner, with that, yeah, I would do the same thing. Even if they thought it was a ridiculous expense or something like that, I'd be like, that's my.
It's budgeted in.
Yeah,
It is what it is.
it's in my budget. I wrote it in there. That means it's there now. I can just account for it automatically.
Yeah.
Do you think that people who date should budget like that? Like, do you think that it should be something that they really look at when they're dating, or should we not pay attention to the financial aspects of it and look for love?
Oh, that's a trick. Well, the way that you asked that question, I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, you don't want finances to ruin potential matches and getting to know somebody. But I do know from other relationships, money is a big issue
Yep.
for a lot of people. So it might not be the fact that one person makes a lot more than the other. It might just be how someone handles their finances. And that's the issue in the relationship. Like they both make the same amount of money, but one person spends, and the other person saves. That might not be a good setup for a relationship long term. So I think
True. It's true.
I think that matters more than who's tracking what or whatever. I think if you have a similar mindset going into your finances with whoever you're dating, that's fine. I
Yeah.
think you can work on that and you can discuss, hey, maybe let's not spend this much money on food this month or eating out. Hey, let's talk about what's important for you to spend money. Like, for example, I like to spend all of my money on experiences, and Roy likes to spend all of his money on things
Right.
like high quality products.
Yes.
And it annoys him when I skimp on just something as fucking simple as socks, right? I get the cheapest fucking socks out there, whatever.
All you
That's
need is
not
like the
important.
dollar pack at Walmart, right? I mean, they're just
But
socks.
he buys like $20 socks that are very nice quality. And I have a couple pair, and I do have to say they are really fucking nice.
Right.
But they're never it's like the Darn Tough brand. They're never going to fuck, if they get a hole in it, you get a new pair, and if
Right.
anything happens to it, they're waterproof, blah blah blah. The nice things are nice, but that's not what I always prioritize, right?
Sure.
I'll handpick. So it's figuring out with that person that you're dating, what do you value as far as when you spend your money? Is it
Yep.
experiences or things, and how can you kind of come together to make it work?
Makes sense. Yeah, I think that's very true. Yeah, that is a conversation that can be a major sticking point for many relationships too.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that this also means that women should excuse men who on a first date just invite a woman to come over instead because the cost of actually going on a date?
I have an issue with that. Just because it's
No, I
like
do too. I was not asking a genuine question. Like
I don't
that was
think
a
it's just
disingenuous question.
okay, I was just like I couldn't tell from your face. But I don't it's not just about the money, right? I think you can do things on the cheaper side and still make a good experience out of it.
Yeah.
And I think number one, going into it, if you are in a position, don't be immature like me and say, "Oh fuck, I hope he picks up the date because I have no money and this bill will make me fucking broke." Then you should evaluate if you even need to be on the date. But if you're upfront with the person that you're dating and going, "Hey, let's pick something cheaper. Let's maybe not order $15 cocktails because I would like to treat you, but it's not in my budget right now. Let's find something more cost effective." And if they fucking judge you for that because of your situation at the time, you don't need to fucking date them because they're shallow as hell and they're probably not a good person, right? But if they're understanding when you say those things and they work on a compromise, then that's great and you can go from there.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think like if you are kind of struggling men and you're looking for, someone to date and you match with somebody and you're talking to them and you want to schedule something, it's okay to be like, hey, yeah, let's go out here. I've got, I'm stretching my budget right now, but I think it'd be nice to meet you. And I'd love to meet for a couple drinks and like set that standard, that expectation
Right.
that you're going to pay for, but it's also not going to be a long night. It's also not full meal. It's just meeting somebody. If they do judge you, if they do have a problem with that, then that is definitely on them. That is not something that you should have to put up with. And I feel like, women should also, be more aware of that. And women who are maybe more concerned with appearance than actually meeting somebody who's going to be decent, might have an issue with it. But if you're, looking at actually making a good connection, sometimes having a little bit of empathy can be useful on both ends.
Yeah. And don't be so shallow. Having the empathy and not being shallow, because speaking from experience, swiping on people in the past and going, "Oh, he's a teacher. He's not going to have a lot of money." That's pretty fucked up. Like I was throwing myself out there, but I did say those things. And
Wow.
I was like, I'm not saying it was a good thing.
No, that's crazy.
But coming from someone who is broke, that's like, I'd like to date somebody, but we can't both be broke. I mean, it was just like a broke mindset of just constantly judging other people for not making money when I wasn't making money myself and feeling really self-conscious about it.
What? Projection. Which is
Exactly,
what most people,
yeah.
usually most negative things that happen are because of projection. It's because someone's taking their own feelings about themselves and projecting it on other people. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not healthy. And looking back on it now, I was like, that was so fucking shallow of me to think and not match with someone or continue a conversation because of that fact. And like so shitty of me fucking 6-7 years ago, Sarah.
Right.
But I did it and whatever. But now looking from a stance of I'm older, finances are important, especially when you're struggling.
With Roy and he was unemployed. So like, I mean, look at this shift in your attitude.
Well, that's the crazy thing, right? Is that 2016-year-old me would have never gone out with Roy because he was unemployed. He was struggling, the pandemic, everything that was happening. But I was in a place where I was confident in my finances. I could pick up the bill. I wasn't struggling like I was a couple years, before that. I was like, oh, this is not a problem. Because this is fine. And definitely he was coming from a place of being self-conscious and wanting to do things. But we talked about it because we had both been in that state of being broke as fuck and not having money. Yeah. So it was different that time around and not an issue.
Yeah, that's crazy. How that happens. It's really, yeah. Look at that growth.
Look, I'm not always shitty. I was just shitty for a certain period of time.
Yeah, of course.
If someone mentioned that on a Facebook group, 100% owning up to it. That was not mature. I mean, how would they know, right? I just swiped left on them anyways. But,
right, that's true. Yeah.
But like people, I know I can't be the only person who judges people based off of whatever it says in whether it says entrepreneur or whatever the fuck.
Right.
Because they're like, oh, well, he must think he has money, or oh, he's like some things at face value are that shitty.
Oh yeah, no, it's okay. Like, I mean, we all make, especially on swiping, we make those kinds of judgment calls based on a variety of things. Jobs, I think women are probably more likely to look at a job and make a decision based on that. And I think men are obviously more shallow when it comes to just like looks and attractive. Like they might make an immediate decision without even considering someone might be worth their time otherwise. But that's why I probably don't get many matches right now in Oklahoma, because I have podcaster as my job title.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd honestly
like to know if people still are that shallow, Because coming at it now, I don't think if I was swiping again, I would be in the same mindset.
Conservative redneck Oklahoma, yes, they are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like if I put I was a farmer, it'd be fine.
Really?
I think so. I think that
'Cause you
something like a
fit more in?
podcaster, I think that doesn't fit in very well in that
Huh.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, damn. Well, I really want to know from people, like, what is the cost that you spend on dating, or just like the cost of loving in general? Do you find it more beneficial to be single or in a relationship based on where you're living and where you're at?
Yeah, and how much have you had to weigh the financial cost versus the emotional cost too? Because like like I said, financially, I think makes the most financial sense to be just single and just rent out space to somebody, and just that's the cheapest way to live. But is
Yeah.
that also the most emotionally enriching way to live? And the physically and intimately enriching way to live. So love to hear your thoughts on that. You can call our hotline and give your thoughts at 407-519-0181. And once again, please, we want to really hear from our listeners this time. We want to get an email at datingkindasuckspodcast@gmail.com, or join our Facebook group and share your thoughts there at facebook.com/groups/DKS Podcast.
Don't worry, no one's suing in that Facebook group.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that either.
And for as little as $5 a month, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/DKS Podcast. Almost every episode, we record a bonus one after, and it's just us kind of talking, hanging out, just saying more things you wouldn't hear on the podcast. You can
That's
also watch all of the unedited clips that I hate on YouTube at youtube.com/dating kinda sucks. It's very raw. When we fuck up, the fuck up is there, and you get to see everything unedited. Unedited.
Yes, because I don't have enough time to edit all that shit out, so I just throw it all in there. Yeah, that's right. You can follow us on our social medias: Instagram at Dating Kinda Sucks. We have personal Instagrams, of course, and TikToks at Adam Heath and at Simply Sarah G _. And this is our bi-weekly plea that if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts and iTunes, we want more reviews and ratings, 5-star rating and review, because I think our last one was a while ago, and
early 2020, I think.
No,
2022.
This is 2024, so I think we actually have one from 2023 on there now. But but we got like a bunch when we first started the podcast, but now we really would like some of our newer listeners to leave us a 5-star rating and a review on iTunes and on Spotify as well. You can follow, you can like, you can share with a friend, or share it with somebody who needs to hear it, and that would be great. Are you out of town in 2 weeks, or are you actually here?
I am. I'll be in Nicaragua.
Okay, so we may or may not have an episode in 2 weeks. It depends if we get our shit together and actually record early, or if we record in Nicaragua. I guess we might figure that out. I'm
like, now our streak's going away again. It's gonna say monthly on Apple.
A month, yeah, and then all of a sudden Sarah's gone again.
Sorry,
but no, we'll figure it out, and so we will have an episode back to you soon.
Until next time.
Whether you're married or single or poly or ace, or hanging out with swingers back at your place, listen to us as we give no fuck on Tinder and Bumble and plenty of yucks, trying and having no luck, because we all know dating kinda sucks. Sarah and Adam are two of a kind. He says stupid shit and she doesn't mind. They're not doing this show to make any bucks. Life as a chicken whose feathers they pluck. Why does it work? Well, here is the crux. They both know dating kinda sucks. Dating kinda sucks.